Have you ever officiated a wedding where there's no wedding planner? That means usually that it falls to us officiants to do everything from arranging chairs to corralling everybody at the back to making sure everybody's in the right line to making sure they leave and go down the aisle at the correct time, etc. It can be really rough. So, my goodness, wedding planners are a godsend. Have you ever officiated a wedding where there is a wedding planner and that wedding planner is just as strong a personality as you are? It can get dicey. My name is Mark Allen Grollo. I'm a full-time, book-solid professional wedding officiant in Toronto, and we're going to talk about what happens when our couple has a wedding planner as one of the vendors, just like us. Now, I do want to say right off the top here, I want to be on record as saying, I want to reiterate that wedding planners are a wedding officiant's best friend. When we work well together, it is total magic. I love planners. I recommend planners. Whenever I sit down with a couple, I say, do you have a planner? Please get a planner, because it just makes our lives so much easier. And frankly, a lot of the time, they're way better at all those meticulous details than we officiants are, because that's not completely our job. That said, when I was starting out, I did get steamrolled a bit by some of those really incredible professional wedding planners who showed up and kind of assumed that I didn't know what I was doing because I'm a wedding officiant. Now, we don't want any power struggles. We don't want any weird stuff happening. So I'm going to give you 4 tips, things that I have come out of my experience, 4 tips for working well with our amazing wedding planner colleagues. You ready? The first thing we can do with our wedding planner colleagues is share the wedding ceremony script. So my process is 4 to 6 weeks before the wedding day. I like to sit down with the couple, have our wedding planning session. I build that out in Google Docs, and that means when I'm finished and the script is in Google Docs, I can share that with whoever I want. So of course I share it with the couple, but I will also in that workshop ask the couple the name of their wedding planner, and then I will track down their planner and say, hey, my name's Mark, I'll be officiating the wedding in a few weeks, and do you want a copy of the wedding script? A lot of the time they are really happy, and when I get to the rehearsal or the ceremony, they actually have printed out on their clipboard, wedding planner always has a clipboard, a copy of the script that we sent them, that we built. And so that's a great way to make that first contact and just say, hey planner, we're friends. We're on the same team. The second tip I would give around working well with the wedding planner is split the rehearsal spotlight. A lot of time the wedding planner will come to the wedding rehearsal, and I love when they do, and I hope that they do, and I encourage them to do so. But when I was starting out as an officiant, I kind of noticed that I was getting kind of steamrolled by really directive, competent wedding planners who would show up at the wedding rehearsal and kind of take over, order things about, tell me what to do and when to start, etc., etc. And so I realized pretty early on, the rehearsal is about the ceremony, and the ceremony is under my purview. Now, what we don't want is some kind of weird power struggle happening in front of the couple, the friends, the family, and making everybody uncomfortable. So, what do? We split the spotlight, and what that means is we officiants arrive at the wedding rehearsal, we see the planner, we go over, we introduce ourselves, and right away we kind of establish ourselves as a pretty directive and confident presence. We've got this. We don't know what kind of experiences the planners have had with officiants who are a little bit bumbling or non-directive. Everybody wants to get this thing going, do it well, and not be here for 3 hours or 2 hours. So I think that's why the planners kind of take over sometimes. So when we arrive, we want to clearly communicate our different roles. The planner is doing all the details. He or she probably has a huge clipboard full of names and times and all that stuff. But the ceremony, that's our purview. And so we like to say, I'll take it from there, I'll introduce you, I will tell everyone to talk to you about some other details, things like that, and let them know that you are the logistics ninja of the day, and then I'll do the ceremony run through. Tip number 3 for working well with the wedding planner is make your non-negotiables clear. Now, as wedding officiants, we all have different non-negotiables, things that we do not want to compromise on at the start of the ceremony. Again, we're not jerks. This is not about being a jerk and not working well with somebody. This is about doing things that are part of our process, part of what we need to do so that we can do our job at the front really well. I'll give you an example of something that happened to me. One time I put my blind trust in a wedding officiant, one of the top wedding officiants in the city, and I regretted it. So one of my, what I thought was non-negotiables was to talk to the bride ahead of the ceremony. And actually, we're supposed to do that. That's what I consider one of the best practices. But I was told by this planner that the bride is on the way in. She's on her way. The party are here. The limo just pulled up. And so go ahead, make your entrance with the guys, make your announcements. By the time the processional music starts, everything will be good. She'll be at the back. We'll all start coming in for the processional. So I did that. Walked to the front with the guys, made my announcements, said with that, let's begin. Music started, and it played, and it played, and nothing was happening. Nobody was coming in. Apparently, they weren't there. They weren't ready. It wasn't happening. That's when I pledged to myself never to let that happen again. Obviously, it wasn't the planner's fault. Something fell through, something got delayed in the long hallway to the ceremony area, but I will not start a ceremony without knowing that the bride is ready and having a little chat with her first. Are you ready to go? Good. Then I'll come in. That's just one of my non-negotiables. You might have a different few, a list, one or two. So let's be clear about our non-negotiables and maybe even tell the planner, no, I must do this. This is part of my process. And as a fellow professional vendor, the wedding planner is going to respect that. They're amazing pros too, and they know what it's like. And tip number 4 for working well with the wedding planner is give them a lot of love. When the wedding ceremony is done and the week to follow, we definitely want to follow up with the planner that we work with and say thank you. And there's a few ways to show our thanks and appreciation. So of course, one way to do that is to send an email and say it was an absolute pleasure working with you. Thanks so much for handling all the details. It allows me to do what I do at the front really well, and I have you to thank for that. Another way that we can show our thanks is tagging the planner on social media. So if you use Facebook or Instagram as part of your professional profile, maybe even a shout out on Instagram stories or Facebook stories or something like that. The more love that you can spread around to wedding planners, the better. Again, because they make our lives so much easier. And if you find that you work really well with a certain wedding planner, then you definitely want to get the word out. And that leads to the last way that you can show love to a wedding planner, which is to personally recommend them to your clients. So by the time a couple comes to me, a lot of time they have the planner. Sometimes they sit with me and I ask, do you have a planner? Sometimes I ask that in our initial consult, the chemistry check I like to call it. Sometimes I'll ask that at our wedding workshop 4 to 6 weeks before the day. There's a lot of really great day of wedding planners out there who would be happy to jump on and coordinate all the details. And so the more you can recommend wedding planners to couples, the more you're going to build your Rolodex, your community of vendors, and the love just starts going back and forth. That's when the job starts getting really fun, is when you have this network of fellow vendors. You start seeing each other at repeated weddings, and it's a really great time. That's one of the things I love most about what I do. So there you have it. Wedding planners are some of the most talented people you will ever have the pleasure of meeting in the event space. And the way to work well with the wedding planner is share the script, share the rehearsal spotlight, communicate your non-negotiables, and show them some love. Give them some shout outs on social media, say thank you in an email, and recommend them to couples who come your way after the wedding. I would say there's no one who helps us do our jobs better than a great wedding planner. Hope you liked this video. I hope it was helpful. If you did like it, then like it if you can. Click the button down below. And if you're officiating a wedding or you're a wedding officiant, you definitely want to subscribe to this channel. So click that red button. Every single week, I'm dropping a new video right here on this channel on how to officiate a wedding. Let me know in the comments how you have worked really well with a great wedding planner in the past. I'd love to hear from you. See you next time on How to Officiate a Wedding.